So definitely a big thanks to Brita today for taking the time to talk with us about her love of CRM and just how you find relationships and data. Definitely a super cool piece. Hey guys, so we got to give a big welcome to one of my colleagues from the marketing program, Brita Devereaux, I think is the full name if
Good,
I'm
nice.
correct. And if Brita's not teaching CRM or some marketing classes, she's often taking off in her two-seater BMW having a good time. Some of the things that I've always enjoyed is walking by class and seeing the activities Brita's been up to and just getting pulled into the classroom and pulled into the exercises literally. So just to start off with, can I ask who's Brita?
Thank you, Matt. It's awesome to be here. Awesome to be on your show, so to speak. Yeah, so who am I? Gosh, I am probably one of the few that's born and bred in Vancouver. I grew up here and went to UBC. I mucked around for the first couple years. As a result, I learned that going overseas, traveling was a good option. Specifically, I went over to New Zealand for a year. I went to the UK for a year, came back, finished off UBC, got a scholarship after that, after I've stopped mucking about, and went over to Germany for a period of time. So as part of all of that, I'm from here, but and then I went back to the UK and I lived there for about 5 years. I worked with a marketing agency there. I traveled a lot, probably to about 40 different countries with that agency, which was really cool. So who am I? I'm from here, but I've been very fortunate to have seen a lot of the world. Also, kind of want to throw in that I've spent a lot of time in India. Why? Because I taught kids over there. I spent some time down south for quite a bit of time. Married to an Indian guy. We adopted somebody, a little girl from India. So yeah. So who am I? I'm from here, but I think I've got a reasonably diverse background. And I think it really holds, it's a pretty cool thing to have, especially when teaching, because we've got so many international students, and to be able to relate in a different sort of way. Speak a little French, speak a little German, speak no Hindi, a few words. So when we adopted our little girl, it was quite something for the first year because there was no communication at all. So you learn to read a lot of body language as well. So I guess, who am I? I'm from here. I've traveled a fair amount, worked in marketing, worked in banking quite a bit, worked with HSBC for about 10 years in big banks, and then I switched over to something completely different, which was in the banking world, financial service industry. I went over to credit unions, which are a completely different model. So I got to see it from both sides, from a big global bank to a much smaller community-oriented credit union side. And as a result, I'm lucky enough to teach financial services marketing, which is really cool. I really enjoy teaching that. And CRM, which I know we're going to be talking about. So in a nutshell, I've kind of gone all over the place, but that's who I am.
I think that just speaks accolades because then you can just speak into so many different things. And I think that's kind of the neat part about your story as an instructor and just how you're able to turn data into a story. That's what at least I've heard when I've been walking by the classrooms and my ear perks up and I'm like, I need to take that class at some point. That looks amazing.
You're welcome to come and join. I'd
Actually,
like you to be my guest speaker. That would be kind of cool
that would
too.
be awesome. To get fired off then with one of your favorite topics, why do you love teaching CRM?
I do. I love teaching CRM. I love it. And I've been teaching it now for 5 years. So I've been with Douglas for the last 5 years. And prior to that, obviously, I was in industry. I actually really like data. So as a starting point, in marketing, I think most of us know that you're not going to get very good results in a business, really in life, if you don't start with the facts. CRM is very data driven. So and when I say that, I mean, that sounds so dry. Apologies, Rosalie, when I say that to one of our other colleagues. Once you start with some good, robust data, you can get some great results. You can use your creativity. Once you've got a starting point, done some data mining, analyzed, and sort of looked into what the data is telling us, from there, then you start putting on your marketing hat. From there, you start figuring out who your segments are. You start figuring out who they are as buyers and users and people. You're creating your personas. And then after that, you can target them so much better, because then you're talking to pretty well-defined, bespoke, specific groups that will hopefully respond and react to your marketing efforts, because you have a really good idea of who they are. So why do I love CRM? Because it is data driven, because it's about relationships, which is probably a lot more to the point. Of course, it's about relationships, customer relationship management, but you can't build a relationship until you actually know with whom you're talking. And there's just so much in this course that we think we've got relationships, whether it's in life, whether it's with our friends, our parents, our colleagues, our partners, our kids. And if there isn't emotion attached to that relationship, then it's going to be a pretty uniplane. Like, it won't go very far. So in CRM, we spend a lot of time talking about the difference between emotional loyalty, which is what you want, versus what's called functional loyalty or behavioral loyalty. Loyalty programs, we do things, we get points, and we do all of that for really good reasons. But ultimately, you want to actually really deeply get to know who your customer is. In small businesses, that's a lot easier to do if there's, only 100 customers, something like that. But imagine the big companies that are doing this really, really well. Most of it's data driven, our Amazons, our Apples, etc. But it's going beyond that data, because that's only one part of it. And it's then figuring out how you can connect on so many different levels. Like Sephora, for instance, I think is a great example of a CRM company. And a lot of my students actually use it. And I think they do a really good job. They, they'll wish you a happy birthday. They know about you as a person, and they're not always trying to sell you something. They're trying to make your life better when you walk in. They're trying to educate you. They're trying to teach you. They're trying to actually build some rapport with you. And as a result, probably we're going to buy stuff. So, and Sephora, by the way, is a makeup personal care company for those that don't know. So yeah, so why do I love CRM? And I also, just to sort of finish that thought off, I love CRM because a lot of the students that are in it are so engaged. What I mean by that is, man, I've had some great students. It is not a class that one can be passive in. There's so much group work. There's so much peer learning, so much inter-student dynamics that goes on. I mean, frankly, I'm a talking head, and my talking head, if I can minimize it, I'm there to learn from everybody else in the room. And I learn so much. Online, it's going to be different. It's going to be this virtual thing. I don't know how we're going to do. Well, we're still going to do a lot of breakout rooms and whatnot, but it's going to look different come September. But for the past 5 years, I've really loved the interconnectivity. And after the 3 months, it feels like the teams, the people that are there, they know each other almost like a family. That sounds a bit cheesy, but I think you get what I'm saying, because there's so much interconnectivity. So does that kind of answer your question?
Oh, it totally answers the question.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then what courses would you love to teach in future? What are some of the courses at Douglas that you would be keen to take part in?
Yeah, one of the ones that I would actually be really cool, would be cool to teach, is the nonprofit marketing. And we don't teach it that often. When I say that, it's not offered every term, every semester. But when I worked at Vancity, which was it's a credit union, it is such a world apart from a big bank. And when I worked in India, I mean, that's a world apart too, teaching kids. So where I'm going with that, specifically going back to Vancity, the whole idea of creating impact in community, not being driven by money, because Vancity is a cooperative, so it's driven by their stakeholders, by the community, by people that are doing really cool stuff. They're not driven to make a profit like the big banks are, just using those two as a comparison. And as a result, it's a very equitable sort of environment. So I'd love to be able to teach nonprofit marketing. And I got involved with some nonprofits when I was in India as well. So it's just something that's kind of, I'm fascinated by it. It's dear to my heart. It's very relationship based once again. So it's kind of full circle to some of the other stuff that I teach. So yeah.
Well, guys, we definitely have to say a big thank you to Brita for her time. This has been wonderful just learning more about your perspective and just how much it plays into your love of CRM and relationship marketing. And Brita's definitely a specialist at this. So we wouldn't be able to teach the courses to the same level without Brita and all of our other faculty members. It's great to have such passionate colleagues. So I just have to say a definite thank you for this.